We're a family-run business that really cares about what we do.
Yeah.
We care about our residents. We care about our staff. We want to do good in the world.
Sure.
And we aren't just trying to grow. We aren't trying to, get to a number and make a certain amount of money, So, if we stay at the size we are, we're very comfortable and happy with that. Like, we just want to do good work.
I don't think people realize that the layout of the building dictates staff.
Yes.
The layout can save you millions of steps per year, millions of nursing steps per year. And you start to look at how long it takes to get from A to B. And it's really interesting. The staffing it could save you $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year just by having a different layout of the surface area. Really incredible. These are the pieces people miss. And that's why we love having the shows. These things matter.
All right. Welcome to Our Purpose Podcast, the podcast where stories from skilled nursing and long-term care come to life. I'm your co-host, Kip Kruger, a voice shaped by industry experience and a belief that everyone has a purpose and their story is worth telling. Your co-host, CEO of Principal Health Systems, James Dieter, and COO, Mr. Chris Light. How you doing, guys?
Good. How are you, Kip?
Doing great.
Day 2.
THCA.
THCA. It's a good night last night. It's fun.
It was fun. We're all tired.
Yeah, tired, Jay. Yeah.
We don't have time for that. Let's go.
we got a special guest today.
Very special guest. I'll do a little intro here. So, in an era where aging populations are reshaping our world, long-term care isn't just a service. It's a lifeline that demands innovation, compassion, and financial savvy to thrive amid rising costs and evolving regulations. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Forrest Threadgill, the Director of Finance at Momentum Skilled Services. He's a trailblazing Texas-based network that's expanded from a single facility to 10 skilled nursing communities since 2015. So, without further ado, Mr.
And I believe you're the VP of Finance, right?
Yeah.
VP.
What's up, Forrest? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you all.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
It'll be a lot
glad
of
to
fun.
be here.
So, we'll tell us a little bit of background on you. I know we've got I guess you studied originally in economics and finance, came out and went right into the facilities, right?
Yeah, so it's a family-owned company. So I went to UT, studied economics, accounting, and then joined the industry with my mom when we were at one building in 2016, and then just kind of been doing this. It's addicting.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So, how instrumental were you in the growth? You've gone from 1 to 10 buildings. Does a lot of that fall on you? You're a young guy.
Yeah. So in the beginning, to be honest, not a lot. Right. I learned. I was just trying to learn as much as I could. But we do have some team members who are still with us that were a very integral part of that, and we could not have done it without them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I've to answer your question, not a lot, but it's been a fun ride though.
Yeah. How are you feeling now in the organization? Are you a more substantial part of the C-suite and kind of involved in the big decision?
Yeah, I still have a lot to learn, and I'm aware of that. But I've grown with the company, and it's I take pride in it, and I want to do good things for our residents, our employees, and yeah, I think it's an interesting dynamic with a family business.
Always is.
So there's certain times where I want to do more,
Sure.
but it's not necessarily my role, and stepping on people's toes. It's been a balance to learn how to navigate those waters.
Sure. Tell us a little bit about Momentum. Obviously we know you have 10 facilities, but what is the vision? What is the mission of Momentum? Where are you guys going? What are the goals, the short term, the next 3 years? What are you trying to achieve?
We're a little different than I think a lot of other operators. We don't want to grow just to grow.
Sure.
If something makes sense for us, we'll do it. But if we, forever stay at 10 buildings, we're at 10 buildings. We care more about providing a good service and quality product more than, get to a certain number.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Sure.
More opportunistic in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Mom is Charlene Threadgill.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So my relationship with her, I used to run Hunter's Pond.
Oh, really?
So I was the administrator. That was my first big building as an administrator.
Is that a momentum building?
It was a momentum building. Yeah.
Kid, who haven't you worked for?
A couple people.
He's got a connection.
But Charlene didn't own that one. It was more Mike Marcel.
Yeah.
But
yeah, they were partners,
right?
Yeah. So they had a company called Paramount.
Yeah.
Started that in 2000, sold in 2007. She had a non-compete that expired in 2015.
That's awesome. Yeah. So then I ran Hunter's Pond, knew of Miss Charlene indirectly with Mike Martell. Mike Martell, he's a legend though. He's now he owned part of that. They sold to Senior Care back in 2000, maybe 17 or so.
Yeah.
16, and then that's how I know Miss Charlene.
Okay.
So it's a small world.
Y'all purchased 3 buildings last year.
Yes.
3.
In August of last year.
Can you kind of take us, as much as you're comfortable with, behind the curtain as like what we primarily have spoken to, like clinical operations folks on here. So I think this is cool because you're on the finance side, but like a little bit behind the curtain on like how deal flow comes to you all, kind of what your process is. You sound to be fairly picky on buildings that you're wanting to look forward with. So not like specific numbers, so to speak, but like how did that all come to be? And why do those make sense for you in the markets that you took them in?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate. Charlene has really good relationships.
Yeah.
And so that one came to us through Martell. So normally how it works is there's multiple ways, but the most common is brokers or that avenue. For this one, we got approached about taking it was Regency.
Okay.
And so they went under. And so there was I think it was 12 buildings. So so there was a big package. Touchstone was taking majority of them, but there was still 3 that looked interesting. So we had the opportunity. They brought it to us. We looked at it, deliberated with our team. We didn't just make the decision. We kind of talked to our leadership and asked them if they thought, could we do it? Because we've always done 1 every year. And so this was a way different animal doing 3 for our team. And so we deliberated with them, ended up doing it, but it is a huge cash constraint. Taking just 1 building, and so that there's a big learning curve taking 3, and we made some mistakes, and but
what would you do differently on the next 3, if you can say?
So many things.
Well, let's back up a little bit. What is the acquisition strategy? Or when you're looking at, is it most importantly the geography? Does it have to do with the cash flow?
Yeah. So you want to look at geography. You want to take into consideration your staff. Are you going to be able to staff it? I mean, we have this huge staffing problem in just general. So if you're, if you're in a city that's 2,000 people, are you going to have enough nurses to run that building? So you look at that. Geography, yes, is a huge consideration. What is the population look like in 5-10 years? Are people moving in, people moving out? What median income is this population as well? Because that comes into consideration for different payer sources. So you want to look at all the picture, and then once you decide that yes, this location is good, then you need to look at the health of the building you're buying,
financial health.
Yes. And the health of the building. I mean, that's something we learned.
You mean like just age?
Okay. And how well was that building taken care of?
Yeah.
There's a lot of big ticket items in a nursing home. You have ACs, you have industrial freezers, you have
How much does like the builder come into play of a building? Because I know Mike Martell was pretty specific in like who the buildings that he purchased were made by Smithers, right? And so does that play into account to look at new buildings, like who the builder is and how it's designed, how it's made. Because I would assume it'd be similar to like buying a Ford versus buying a Mercedes, or like every nursing home is built a little differently. They have a different layout. So how much does that play into it?
I would say the layout is definitely a consideration. Who built it? Not really. I mean, maybe a newer, if we're talking, 2010 or so to now, then yes, because you want to make sure that it's going to last how they said that it's going to last. But once it gets, you're in the 90s, 80s, the stuff's going to break.
I don't think
it doesn't really matter.
I don't think people realize that the layout of the building dictates staff.
Yes.
Staffing. Like, so if a building is laid out, like for instance, a K floor plan, that was one that we would run, but that would dictate your staffing, rather than another building that I would run was like a wagon wheel, like a circle.
Yeah.
You would have to have more staff in different layouts of buildings. It was super interesting. I ran the Enclave in San Antonio, 2-story building, and the top floor, running that with Touchstone, was all private rooms at the very, very top. And so you staffed it differently based on square footage, and also based on like private rooms. And so I didn't know how much that plays into account of, do I want this building? Do I not want this building? Type thing.
I would say it does,
right?
At least for us.
Sure.
I can't speak for everyone, but so like a K plan is my preference.
Sure.
What do you like about it from a preference standpoint? It's just a leaner model. Okay.
So what he's describing, so if we have a circular or like a square type of building, you're going to have 2 nursing stations, because you have to have line of sight, right? And so that's just more higher wage nurses.
It's surface area at the end of the day. We built a large, it's called Bay Area Regional Medical Center, and now it's UTMB in Galveston. And when we built this, we were designing it. The layout can save you millions of steps per year, millions of nursing steps per year. And you start to look at how long it takes to get from A to B. And it's really interesting. The staffing could save you $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year just by having a different layout with surface area. It's really incredible. These are the pieces people miss. And that's why we love having the shows. These things matter. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I'm not touching a 2-story building. Dealing with an elevator on top of all that.
I think that was Touchstone's first 2-story building, and that was a challenge. It was a challenge staffing it, but it was also a challenge for everyone because they had never. I'll speak for them. I don't think that they'd ever had that type of a building. So it's just you learning. It's so like it's a transitional care facility, and so they got it down to a T now. But when we first opened it up, it was a learning process for everybody.
Yeah. Don't ever do that.
And those are just like the small things of like owning and operating and buying a building that you don't realize until like you're there. So it's good. I want to know a little bit about the board. Like you're on THCA board. You're a young guy. I always think that I started young, but you're younger than I am. It's nice to see like new young people coming up through the ranks, sitting on boards and just making an impact in long-term care. So run me through that. That's super interesting to me.
Yeah. So we joined as a company, THCA, in December. And then I got approached by a board member to, potentially be on the board.
Yeah.
And he made a compelling argument. He was basically, if you're going to be in this industry and want to care for people and make a difference, you need to kind of be at the forefront of the industry and, be an advocate at Capitol, at the Capitol for our residents, And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And why be in the organization if you're not going to try to push it forward?
How long have you been on the board?
Since March. Super new. I'm a fly on the wall most of the time.
What are some of the big takeaways so far?
I would say I'm still learning a lot on how just the organization kind of works, I guess.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate enough to join during sessions. So I saw a lot on how
How the game's played.
how it's played. Yeah. And how, we do have to fight to keep the industry, viable, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's been a great learning experience, and I'm, want to keep learning.
What are you looking forward to the most?
In what?
I guess the aspect
On the board?
Yeah, I guess of learning. Like I find it super interesting. Young people. Like what do you want to learn in the next couple of years? Like what do you look forward to?
I guess just to be a better operator. You don't know what you don't know. But I'm sitting across from Derek and stuff who are legends, and if I can take any sort of information from them and kind of push it down the line, I mean, that's a win.
Smart.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You get to be a sponge while simultaneously
Exactly.
Yeah, but you'll have some really interesting, unique ideas that other people may not have thought of, and that's super interesting to them as well. It's like a symbiotic relationship, It's very cool.
Well, talking about just being a young guy in this position, you're running, finance department inside of a fairly sizable business at this point. Talk about just the home life a little bit. You have kids, you're married. What's that like?
Yeah, I just had a little boy, me and my wife, 2 months ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And so it's been
2 months, you said?
2 months ago. Yeah.
Are you sleeping any?
Yeah. He's doing pretty good. He's doing pretty good.
Good.
But I mean, new normal is just tired.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
But no, it's been great. I can't imagine anything better.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's the
the
best
sleepless
part of life,
nights,
too.
all that, he smiles and all that is
Melt your heart.
Yeah.
Dude, soak it in. I have 2 girls, and part of that was like soak in those special moments because they go by so fast.
Yeah.
Life is fleeting, life is fast, but soak in those moments and enjoy them.
Yeah. I mean, super early, right? 2 months, but he's already grown out of his clothes and
Yeah.
Crazy.
That'll keep happening.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm aware. He's already grown out of diapers. I have a bunch of diapers that are useless now, the newborn ones, and
Time for another kid.
The diapers are good sponges to clean stuff up. So just, you can hold on to those. I find all sorts of uses for things like that.
Do you still use diapers?
Yeah. They clean up spills with the dogs.
Yeah.
Good with the dogs for sure. What do you do for fun?
I'm a big sports fan. I went to UT, go to all the UT games.
Let's talk about that for a second. This is very important to a lot of people.
Yeah.
How's your quarterback doing?
Great. No, I
What
think,
are you going for politics?
no. I think honestly, I think it's a mental issue. So I think Sam Houston was a good good game in that respect of you could see him get his confidence more. I mean, he
needed that game.
Yeah.
He needed that game first.
Yeah, he did.
He needed that one.
I think he said his mom was mad at him when Arch stood up over that guy.
Well, I think this is like you're playing Sam Houston and you're gonna.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of stupid.
Now you got.
Well, come on now. I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you have the weeks before that and you have everyone in the country just questioning if you should even be starting, essentially, you're gonna have a little fire when you score a touchdown.
That's true.
Yeah.
You got to get in his head for that.
Yeah.
He's probably excited about it.
Yeah.
How was UT?
Great.
Of course, it was great.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good.
He's like, I can't talk about anything here, but it was a lot of good parts.
It was great.
Yeah. No, I met some of the best friends of my life. Yeah, it was a great time.
Were you in a fraternity?
Yeah, so I was Sigma Chi.
Okay.
So
At Upsilon.
okay.
Yeah.
Good for you.
You
I didn't know we had the Sigma Chi connection.
Today we
So
learned.
you're brothers now.
That's right.
Steakhouse Caritas.
Question from the finance side, do you, at least you're in the room, but how is just Medicare Advantage, if you can talk about that? I'm sure it's a hot topic. It's a hot topic for us in our business. I imagine it's a hot topic for anybody who's dealing in federal payers. And so just how are you all handling it? Or I would imagine it's a big impact to business. And
it's stressful.
Yeah.
You get paid what, 3/4 of what you would from traditional Medicare. On top of that, you have to fight their billing department constantly. Where, you know, and you have to wait basically an extra 60 days to get it.
Yeah.
And so it's frustrating from a cash flow perspective for sure. And yeah, not a huge fan.
Yeah, it's tough.
Do you have any strategies that you guys are using to get around the delayed payments and the fighting? I mean, are you talking directly with the payers? Are you working, like, is there anything that anyone can do?
There's a couple things. There's, you know, companies, programs where you can get basically guaranteed payments. So a company will provide you, they'll
Like
just pay
factoring?
Like factoring, yeah. Like they're paying you money up front and they're taking the paper on the back end.
Yes.
That's super interesting. I had
know
no
there's
idea.
Factoring in skilled nursing.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, the rates are a little lower doing that,
Of course.
but there are options like that.
Mm-hmm.
But from a cash flow perspective, you know, if you get your arms around it, you just got to factor it in. You got to understand that it's going to take a couple more days, and you know, it's just more hoops to jump through. Honestly,
less and later.
Yeah,
a little bit less and a lot later.
Yeah. And the real sad part is, you know, they're sending people home before they're ready, too.
Yeah.
The managed care.
Interesting.
And so how does that work? You have a certain amount of days and they're just not meeting
Essentially.
criteria.
Essentially,
as they normally
have
would with traditional Medicare.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there is some legislation that's come out, and I can't quote it right now, but it states that Medicare Advantage plans have to behave with the same criteria as Medicare, as traditional Medicare CMS.
At least the news
challenged
would
this?
indicate that
Have you
that's
challenged that at all? Is that because my understanding is that they shouldn't be able to send someone home sooner than traditional Medicare patients?
Yeah, it's differing opinions over words, essentially, is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nitpicky, but no, there's some things in the works on battling managed care from a statewide perspective it's coming around.
I think Travis alluded to that from like a payer kind of
Nothing sense.
network.
Yeah.
Is what he was kind of
That's
talking
the
about.
goal.
Like, yeah.
And so, you know, the organization's, that's one of the top goals right now.
Just to kind of band together and use the power.
We're
of
stronger
more
together.
people.
Than we are apart, and we can, you know, negotiate better terms.
Seems to be a common theme. Just the unity, being one. Travis talked about that. Ashley talked about that yesterday too. Talk to me a little bit about just the unity and just like the conversations inside the boardroom for the board of directors. Like, are you always talking about being unified? Because it seems like everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, and I think that's something Travis has done a really good job. Just, you know, the short time I've been a part of it, just seeing that kind of mission. And, you know, people are going to disagree on certain things, but at the end of the day, we all have a common goal.
Yeah.
We're all, you know, have a calling to be here, and we need to keep that at the forefront of our minds when we're, you know, discussing some of these things.
I find that super interesting in skilled nursing. So like, at least from an outsider's perspective, we're industry business members, but like a lot of people know each other and it's quite friendly from what I can tell.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think every industry is like this. And so is that your experience? You're friendly with a lot of the other operators because ultimately you are competing for bed, you know, for beds as well.
Yeah. It is a small industry. You're going to run into each other at some other point. But yeah, we're friendly. There's no reason really not to be. We all, you know, like I said, have a common goal. And if we can all do better, you know, I think overall that's what everyone in this industry who joins it is really trying to do.
Do you find that stress in competition, or it seems like maybe from the operator standpoint, is there that stress, or is there not a stress? Seems to me like, I mean, last night, like it's super friendly. Like everyone just kind of cohesively like mingles together. Everyone has their own thing. Do you find that stress, or is it kind of not there?
No, not really. I mean, obviously there's competition, but no. I mean, because at the end of the day,
You're going to do you, and you're going to
exactly, exactly. And we're competing, but there's so many people who need this. There's enough. Like it's not just because you're doing good doesn't mean I'm going to fail and starve.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
We can all.
No, there's enough to eat.
Yes.
The other piece is you're competing with some of these geographies. We mentioned geography earlier. I mean, if you might have if you're not in the same town as somebody else, you're really not competing over those patients.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality. So I think that changes it up a bit, where you can at least feel like you have this common goal. Everybody's got their North Star as an industry, and yet we're working together. And in different towns, we're actually just partners more than competitors. And I mean, a big part of what we've been trying to do here is just share the best of what's going on with everyone, so they can, we all want to just, build everybody up together. So, I think the words of wisdom, you've already had quite a few today, just great shares that I think people will take away from, so we can keep it going.
How do y'all look at, just from a corporate standpoint? I'm just curious. I'm trying to think of things that we haven't necessarily talked about, but that would be definitely happening from a corporate strategy standpoint, like communication with family, like not your residents, right? But I would imagine that's a big deal, is at least the operating teams are dealing with families all the time, right?
Yeah.
Concerned loved ones. And so how do you all think about that from a corporate standpoint, or is that kind of building to building administrator deal into?
I mean, it ultimately needs to be at the building level. I mean, that's who they're interacting with. That's who's caring for their loved one. So their concerns need to go, there first. But we operate more as a support system in that. So we'll come and we will also come and do join in on the family council meetings and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it needs to be their responsibility. Because they're the ones who are caring for them.
Handling the
yeah.
What special things do sets momentum apart from everyone else?
We're a family-run business that really cares about what we do.
Yeah.
We care about our residents. We care about our staff. We want to do good in the world.
Sure.
And we aren't just trying to grow. We aren't trying to, get to a number and make a certain amount of money, So, I mean, if we stay at the size we are, we're very comfortable and happy with that. Like, we just want to do good work.
Do you think that size gives you the ability to be super granular in your approach to the administrators, the DONs, like the staff members? Because you're a smaller facility. Does that give you just more leverage to positively impact them?
Yes and no. So yeah, we have a lot more flexibility and can, maneuver situations a lot. But if, things happen, our corporate team gets stressed stressed on different buildings pulling on them and, a little bit of both.
Does the survey process, is that more of a stress there?
Oh yeah.
We talked about getting back to maybe hopefully a new norm or pre-COVID for the survey process. Do y'all feel like that's getting? Are we there yet?
We're not there yet. No. Yeah. The IJs are still a thing.
Yeah, there was that paper that was posted. It was an op-ed by one of the operators in Texas about the fines, and I was flabbergasted. It was 5x fines, and they put real numbers in it, and I was like, how much money on fines? This is insane. Mm-hmm. And so I know everyone's feeling that.
Yeah. And and it's also demoralizing for the staff.
Sure.
They get a tag for before COVID was nothing. And so and it's really hard on the leadership too. And they take it personally.
Yeah. Which is a good thing that they do.
Yes, it is.
They care that much, but it's also disheartening.
But the regulatory environment right now, it just stinks that they're coming after people who I mean, for the most part, 90% of these, if not more, is just kind of BS.
I think there's an underlying thing that most all administrators and DONs want to do a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
They want to do a good job. And specifically where I'm coming from is my experience as an administrator. I desperately just wanted to do a good job. And survey process was super stressful because you get on the ninth month, your survey window opens, and then it roughly closes on the 15th, right? So during that time frame, that window, you're super stressed out. You never know when they're going to come, and so that was always a challenge. That, like, as an administrator, you want to do a really good job, but then it's just the survey process is so subjective. Like, depends on what surveyor you get, depends on what team you get. So that's always a challenge, and always a kind of a stress that kind of underlies the job itself.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah, the survey. I mean, yeah, that's a different discussion, but yeah.
Let's turn it back to your finance role. What is something you enjoy the most out of your career path? I mean, is it the acquisitions, or would you say that is it more that you like just the day to day, just crunching it and trying to get lean? What really drives you?
The fun part is looking at deals and stuff. That's the fun part.
You're talking to a couple deal junkies.
Yeah.
So,
but no, I've actually been more. Longer I've been here, more I'm interested in the ops side and what our people do, and so just being able to learn. I keep going to this learning thing. I'm really trying to learn more on the ops side. I've been on the finance side for so long, and this is kind of a new movement for me personally. I'm gonna go I'm getting my administrative license.
Cool.
Good for you.
So that's kind of where my focus has been, is more on that side. But the financials, that whole side, the deals is what gets you excited. And 95% of the ones you look at it and just die.
Yeah.
And then the other 5% died during due diligence. So.
Yeah. I'll tell you, that's very awesome that you're doing that. So our CFO, his name's Jeff. He's awesome. But one of the things that I think he's really amazing at doing, and you're kind of on this path, is like, numbers don't lie. And so if you have a really good understanding of all of your financial statements, and you kind of know, you can ask questions that nobody else in the organization can ask. So it's like, Jeff will ask me something. I'm like, let's be careful how we respond to this. Let's get a full answer, get it all together. So like the fact that you're kind of teasing into the operations side, you'll have a unique lens and a skill set, especially if you go then learn the operation. It's really powerful. Like that's something that's been super surprising to me, to work with like a seasoned CFO. And I'm like, oh, he's like my best asset I'm in operations. So like, he's my best asset from an operator standpoint. And so you have a lot of value to bring to people like that, because you can see everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're the one that's able to say, this lever moves this and this moves this. And if we do this, and this number should be, hey, between making this up 2 and 3, and we're at 3.3, we got to bring it down. And this is how we do it. And you'll be able to really ask some incredible questions. So I think that's really,
I got to pace myself a lot of times, because not a lot of people understand numbers, and I have to remind myself about that. And so I have meetings, and sometimes I just see people's eyes glaze over. So I have to keep that in mind when I'm discussing some of this, especially with like admins and DONs who don't.
Yeah, but to your point, I think that when you become an administrator, when you understand the back end a little bit more, you'll be able to tie that.
100%.
It's become more practical.
Yeah.
The numbers have meaning, and they'll have a little bit more life.
Yeah.
You can explain it that way.
We also have a data analyst. And so sometimes he'll feed us numbers, and I'm like, this is what I do. I glaze over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're going to give our team no more than 3. So let's pick the 3 most important ones. That's the only ones we're going to work on right now.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll get a spreadsheet and like you got to toggle left and right. It's 7 pages. I'm like, we're going nowhere, man.
Yeah.
So you're feeling that.
Yeah.
Might be a silly question, but it's kind of a question for everybody. How, from my experience, an administrator, now I get to experience the other side with principal. How important is a really good CFO?
We're laughing because we've been on both sides of this,
right?
It's
I ask it because I see it now.
Critical. Absolutely critical to have someone in your finance department that understands how the business should run well.
Right.
It should drive most decisions if you want to maintain quality.
Right.
You can increase. So unfortunately in healthcare, there's a inverse relationship between quality and cost. If you really think about it, if you can put a nurse in every room, right? That'd be good care.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. One nurse for every patient.
You'd last, what, 3 months?
If you're lucky. You have good cash flow reserves if you can last 3 months, right? So there's an inverse relationship. So what we do, and this is like a really healthy, I'd say, tension in the organization, is that we have people, I mean, I'm one of them, that drives quality. It's like we're obsessed with the quality culture in our organization. So we want to provide our staff members, our employees with, we call them team members, with as many resources as possible to be successful. That's technology, that's additional staff underneath them that help them get things done. And then we want to provide our patients and our providers with an incredible service offering. And we will spend every last dollar to do that. And there's a push to do that. And as you continue to innovate and explore what you can do with an organization, it's very easy to spend dollars in saying, oh, this is going to separate us. This is going to build the moat from competitors. We're going to continue to be the best and even better and better and better. But at the same time, you can go broke doing that. Yep. So without a strong finance department to sit there and provide that tension on the other side and say, well, like, hey guys, slow down, or let's do this next year. Or, you're actually doing something that's going to increase quality to the point where we no longer have a profit margin whatsoever. Yeah. That's why, to me, it's incredible that somebody's sitting out front and really looking even 6, 12, 18 months down the line saying, let's slow down, guys, or throttle up. Like, hey, we can actually spend dollars on this. Quality goes up, and so does our margins. That's the key, finding that. That's genie in a bottle.
I would even say you get a healthy discourse, like a healthy, I'll put in your shoes, like, hey, we need to get the number to here. And I'm an administrator. I say, we can't do that. Yeah. And we get in this, a very healthy disagreement. Yep. But what it forces both of us to do is be more creative, to be like, okay, we can't do that. What can we do? And you start going through these opportunities. And if you don't have someone who's checking you like that, then you'll just get, well, this is what we do. This is how we do it. And this is better and better and better. And you kind of spend your way into bankruptcy. Sure. A lot of times, especially if you're in an industry like ours or like yours, when you're operating on thin margins, right? And so to me, it's the creativity and the very healthy disagreement and discourse. And so it takes 2 or more, however many professionals, to be able to do that and disagree with, like, hey, we can't do that, or I disagree with you. And then you kind of work through it. And a lot of cool things happen. I think but yeah, CFO cannot be understated. And
it doesn't have to be a CFO. It needs to be someone with, a great knowledge base in your finance department. Yeah. I'd be curious to know from the nursing home industry, which is a little bit different than the vendor side with us in diagnostics. Are you guys dealing with, we might bill, everybody understands third-party payers. Mm-hmm. So you might bill $1,000 and you're contracted to receive $600, right? So you've got this accounts receivable that's sitting out there. You have a contracted rate, and then there's 3,000 different payers, and company A is going to pay you maybe $800. Company B is paying you $400. We have a tremendous amount of discrepancy between our contracted payers of what we get. Is it more streamlined in your sense?
A little bit, but there are differences between the different providers. So yeah, you keep that in mind, especially, but that's during the admission process. We have a process of, basically costing out to know, what is this going to look like if we take this resident. It goes through a bunch of different eyes to make sure that's, 3 eyes really, but, we triple check to make sure we're making a good decision. Because something we've run into that's been an issue is there's people who've gamed the system, and so they will be in your building, stop paying you, and there's nothing you can do about it. You still have to take care of the resident. You still have to take care of them. Can't get rid of them.
So effectively, they lose their payer
so normally what happens is they'll get off Medicaid, and so they become private pay or something like that, and they just stop paying us, or don't even pay us at all. A lot of it will be taking their applied income and not paying us their portion of it. And so we're just stuck with somebody we're spending thousands of dollars on.
Is there any strategy there? Have you come up with any resolution or part of the business, huh?
Some of it is, yeah.
Yeah. in diagnostics, the national average is around 60%. So we get paid on 6 out of 10 patients.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's just always the way it is, and it's somehow acceptable.
Yeah. It's kind of, yeah. And so we do as much as we can up front to make sure that doesn't happen, because I mean, we've had multiple people who stay in our buildings for years and that bill gets up to $100,000.
Yeah.
It's substantial. So we really try to tackle that before it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
When, sign documents, get credit card information, stuff like that. But yeah, that there's professionals out there who know how to game the system.
Yeah.
Can we dovetail that? I'm curious. So check me if I'm wrong here, but I think one of the THCA initiatives was on Medicaid eligibility, getting it faster. So we hear this as a vendor a handful of times. It's like, hey, the person's Medicaid eligible, but nobody's getting paid.
Yep.
And so do you all, what you just said scares me. And then I'm like, well, now you have a person you're effectively making a calculated bet on that you believe is Medicaid eligible. Do you all have a process for that? Is that something you guys do at Momentum?
Yes.
Can you just kind of walk us through what that looks like? You just so everybody understands, kind of like you have a person who doesn't have Medicaid, but you believe that they can get it.
Yes.
Okay.
And so we have our AR team will, kind of walk them through and go through it, and they vet them. And so, and we trust them. So when they say we believe this person will get it, we go with it. But we with that as well, we have to cost it out because you're going to be paying for this person for 90 days or whatever.
So you're effectively floating care for 90 days.
Yes. Yeah. So you have to make sure that whatever diagnosis they have is at least going to be under that anticipated Medicaid rate.
Yeah.
You don't want to risk it at all.
Yeah.
Are you using a third-party Medicaid team, or are y'all doing it?
We do
in-house?
in-house.
Yeah.
And then so it's like date of eligibility is like date of application or something from a reimbursement standpoint.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So you're getting kind of like quote unquote big check in
Yes.
90 days to kind of cover it, assuming
so
everything works out.
If you have a lot of them, it becomes a cash flow.
Sure.
thing, but
that's Medicaid pending, right?
Yes.
So is there a percentage that you all want to stay under, or you're like, hey, we're going to take this risk on 10% of all of our buildings? Is it a number, or is it just like, hey, we're going to take them?
I mean, I personally don't want to go. I don't like going above 15.
Yep.
I mean, ideally, I don't want any, but
sure.
It's also building dependent. We're less likely to going to have a bunch of Medicaid pending at a building that already has AR problems in general.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't. Maybe we have a new administrator or something. Like, we want to make sure the systems are in place before,
sure.
Because it can come up and bite you.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time on the revenue side of the equation. Let's talk about the expense side. Where's the largest degree of variability in your expenses month to month?
Labor
costs.
Yeah. I mean, that's majority of
it's inconsistent. I know it's the largest expense.
Okay.
But is it inconsistent, or is that fairly?
It can get if you're not managing it. So that's why I say that if the managers drop the ball on that, it can swing tens of thousands of dollars easily.
Just based on census changing?
No, just more managing hours.
Overtime?
Yeah.
Overtime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. What about other vendor relationships? How important is it to have consistency on the expense side?
Yeah.
So
huge.
do you see, I know pharmacy is a big spend. Therapy can be dependent on how people manage their therapy. Is that somewhere that you feel like you've seen a trend? Is that they're starting to change up the payment models, or is that something where it's all over the board?
Yeah, there's some variability there. We use QRM. They're a great partner. So there's that's this. I would say therapy is a lot more stable than it was, when we first started. When we've completely had a third party doing it, that would swing a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty stable since we manage it ourselves. Let's see other swings. Something that can get out of whack really quickly is your transportation costs. So you need a good system in place for that. Taking people to dialysis or doctor's appointments, all that stuff. Especially if they need a stretcher. that can get out of hand real quick.
Putting him in an ambulance.
That can get out of hand real quick. You know, you can go from spending $4,000 a month to all of a sudden you get a bill for $50,000.
Wow.
Like
That's a swing.
because some things will happen where you know, you bill it and it'll get denied, and all of a sudden you'll get this huge bill from, you know, the ambulance provider for a bunch of trips, you know, over the past 7-8 months, kind of thing. So
We looked at acquiring an ambulance company. Maybe we should look back into that.
I mean,
I wouldn't touch one. There's too much variability on owning that.
Yeah,
thing.
I know.
We got our
we
hands
looked
full.
into it. It's not right. Not the right time.
we got our hands full for sure.
Very good.
Other than staff, I would say specifically on staff, do y'all work with your staff on like a KPI of some sort, like this many hours or percentage based upon anything of that nature?
Yeah.
Not that you have to tell me what yours are, but are they kind of working on metrics like that?
Yes.
That you dashboard or whatever for them, or try to report out on some sort of cadence?
Yes. And that, you know, is kind of a work in progress a little bit for us. But and it's fluid. So
Yeah. For sure.
Cool.
I just have one more question. Obviously we've talked a little bit about AI. We're personally dabbling into AI and kind of looking at areas where it can streamline efficiency, just because the business continues to get competitive. And then obviously just dealing with the economics of the business, which I know you all have a similar kind of challenge that we have. And so are you all exploring AI from a back office standpoint, from a scribe standpoint, or really anywhere?
Yeah.
And are you all thinking about that as far as?
I'm a little hesitant, right? I think there's, going to be kinks with some things, and it's not the cheapest product. I mean, technology in general is not cheap.
For sure.
But we do utilize some of it. We have one where every day it'll email us the top 10 most at-risk patients in our buildings, fall risks, whatever, just based on charts. So that's pretty cool. There's some cool things out there. But yeah. From more of a back office side, we're looking at a couple options right now, actually.
Okay.
That will definitely, I think, help us, my team, especially if we grow.
For sure.
Because that's always a constraint on the back office. The books is
It's a beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot of different P&Ls you gotta create.
For sure.
I'm looking when the game is, so I want to get a prediction. So A&M plays UT.
Oh yeah,
A&M
Thanksgiving.
plays UT. What? It's not Thanksgiving, is it?
It's Friday. Yeah,
Is
day
it?
after Thanksgiving.
Oh, they're doing it back on Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Black
We've been
Friday.
playing LSU. I thought it was okay. Who do you think wins and what's the spread?
Ooh, I like
Texas.
You're going to go Texas just because you went to Texas. You go to
Of
Texas.
course.
All right.
Never pick A&M. That's never gonna happen.
There's a couple years where I've been like, Texas is going to win this game.
James's parents went to UT.
Yeah, I'm a little biased, but
So what's your prediction?
so how where are we at this year? Are we at
27-24.
27,
Tight game.
24.
I think we have more offense than that.
You think so?
I do.
What's your prediction?
But we got a beast of a defense.
I still think both teams have more offense than that. But I think I do think it will be a tight game. I do think A&M will come out on top, and not because I'm an Aggie fan, but because we're better. Objectively better. I think it'll be around like high 30s, but it's going to be tight. I think it's a 1 touchdown or less game.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Be a good game.
Are you going?
I'm still deciding. The idea of just staying home these days is really attractive.
Yeah.
So
Understand that.
I've got an opportunity to go, but I also have an opportunity to sit on my couch. Which sounds really nice.
All right, Kip, take us home.
All right. So we always close our purpose podcast by asking, what's your purpose? We named it for a reason. We want to share the light on long-term care and skilled nursing. We want to share people's purpose.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kick it to you, and you can close us down on it.
All
What
right.
is Forrest Threadgill's purpose in long-term care and life?
So I've been around long-term care my entire life, right? My mom was in the industry when I was growing up, so I've always seen these caregivers, and and how inspiring they are.
Yeah.
And so, growing in college and getting out of college, long-term care is not the sexy industry.
Sure.
So it took me a little bit, and my purpose, I guess, has changed over the years. But at the end of the day, I want to provide, provide these people with love.
Yeah.
I want to, no one is in a nursing home and wants to be there. These people, are having health problems and they're, down about it, most of them.
Yeah.
So I want to give these people, and a lot of them don't have anybody to care for them either. So I want to, provide a place where these people feel loved. I had my uncle stay at one of our buildings, and when that happens and you have a family member that goes through that, it really changes your perspective on all of this. And so I want to, create an environment where our employees feel loved, our residents feel loved, and their family members feel that they're getting love.
It's amazing.
It's good stuff.
Love it.
Dude, it's been nice to sit down and chat with you. Thank you for joining the podcast.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on sitting on the THC board. Congratulations on just your new young career. It's going to be exciting to see what Forrest Threadgill does in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Going to be exciting to just see Momentum Skilled Services just blossom and give people in residents a new perspective and some love in their facility. So going to be excited to see that. Thank you for sitting down and chatting with us today, man.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you everyone for watching Our Purpose podcast. THCA 75th anniversary. We're here, day 2. It's been fun. Share this podcast with everybody. It's been great sitting down and chatting with you guys today. Thanks for listening.
Take care.
All right.